Hey and welcome, this is Phil from MTG Kiwi Philosophy here again, bringing you my pirate deck like I promised you. I hope you enjoy the brew. This one's a bit spicy, and I'm sure you'll take to it.
Kill yourself. Let us board our enemies' boats and take their lives.
Alright, let's kick this off with our smaller pirates. We're going to start with 4 copies of Warkite Marauder. Now, I love Warkite Marauder. It is a great card. It's 1 blue and 1 other, so it's a 2-drop for a 2/1 that flies. And of course, whenever the Warkite Marauder attacks, target creature defending player controls loses all abilities and has a base power of only 0/1 until the end of the turn. What more could you want? This is fantastic. Being able to swing in with this, weaken our opponent's creatures, and still deal the evasive damage. Now, the evasive damage that the Marauder does deal is going to work perfectly with our next creature, and that is 4 copies of Fathom Fleet Captain. Once again, Fathom Fleet Captain is a 2/1 menace creature, so it has another form of evasion. It's also a 2-drop, 1 black, 1 other, and it's great. So those two work in coinciding with each other, so when the Marauder attacks and it turns your opponent's creature into a 0/1, the Fathom Fleet can attack as well, weakening your opponent's creature. So if they can double block, we can deal damage to 1, no problem being killed. If we've got 2 of the Marauders into play, fantastic. Double blocking the Fathom Fleet Captain, turn 2 of them into 0/1. Let's take those creatures out. We don't want our opponents to be having more creatures. And on top of this, if we have got 2 mana spare that we can use, we spend that and give the Fathom Fleet Captain his pirate token creature. That's a 2/2 menace pirate as well. Having 8 2-drop creatures with forms of evasion is really good for us. It's going to help us in that early game, and it's also going to draw out your opponent's removal spells. You might think, yes, that will leave us weak and open for attacks, but you do remember your life total is just another form of controlling the game. Take some damage, let them think they're in control, because we're about to change things up. And we're going to go with our next creature, which is 4 copies of Direfleet Poisoner. Once again, a beautiful 2-drop pirate, 1 black and 1 other. Flash Death Touch, 2/2 creature that when it enters the battlefield, target attacking pirate you control gets +1/+1 and gains Death Touch until the end of the turn. Fantastic, especially for the Fathom Fleet Captain and the other pirate tokens that are attacking. They're going to have to double block. The beauty of this card is the flash. We can be attacking, we've got 2 mana untapped, they're thinking, what are you going to be able to cast? And then we flash in the Direfleet Poisoner, and boom, death and destruction for our opponent's creatures. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. 2/2/2, yes, very monotonous. You have 12 creatures that are 2-drops, and they're very effective. However, how can we deal with our opponent's creatures in another way? Here's how. We're going to go with Karizen's Expertise, and we're going to go 4 copies of this. Now, the reason we have this in here is because we're going to use our opponent's creatures against them, hence killing themselves. So we're going to gain control of target creature or vehicle until the end of the turn, untap it, and it gains haste until the end of the turn. It's time for some shenanigans, people. And then on top of that, the second ability to this spell is you may cast a card with a converted mana cost of 2 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. This is fantastic. We can use the Direfleet Poisoner to flash that in while we're attacking with our opponent's creature and give one of our other pirates +1/+1 in Death Touch. Or even if we're playing against someone with pirates, we take one of their pirates and give it Death Touch and +1/+1. No, no, no. The pain and destruction doesn't stop there. We are then, on top of that, going to cast 4 copies of Costly Plunder. And of course, in addition to casting Costly Plunder, we're going to sacrifice our opponent's creature and draw 2 cards. Thank you. Thanks for letting me borrow your creature and attack you. I'm now going to kill your creature and draw 2 cards. Have a nice day. Now, we are going to have 4 copies of Costly Plunder in this deck as well. So we're going to make sure that we have a consistent configuration of combos coming through in this deck. And we want to keep that curve reasonably low. As it is, it's hard enough that we have Karizen's Expertise already as a double red. So we really want to make sure we're focusing to get those double reds. So it's really important, early game if we can, the double red out as fast as we possibly can, so that we're making sure that the combinations can consistently continue to hit their straps and remove and draw cards. But we have got some other cards to curb that, and that is going with 4 copies of Wrangle. Now Wrangle's also really good. It is a 2-drop spell, however it is at sorcery speed, but it is not double red, it's 1 red and 1 other, and we can gain control of target creature with a power 4 or less until the end of the turn, and it untaps and gains haste. So this is great. So we can still use this in other means with the Costly Plunder. And now for the tip of the iceberg, and we're going to go with 4 copies of Hostage Taker. Now I love Hostage Taker. It's 1 blue, 1 black and 2 others, so it's a 4-drop, it's 2/3, but when Hostage Taker enters the battlefield, exile target artifact or creature until Hostage Taker leaves the battlefield. You may cast this card as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast that spell. Beautiful. I love it. Let's just take our opponent's creatures so they can kill themselves. Now let's move on to our last creature. Now I know you're probably thinking to yourself, 4 Death Touch creatures, is that enough? Ha! No! No, it's not. Let's bring in 4 copies of Dead-Eyed Brawler. Now Dead-Eyed Brawler once again is just like the Hostage Taker, 1 black, 1 blue for 2 others. It's a 2/4 Death Touch Pirate. Now it does have Ascend, but we're not going for Ascend. But if it happens, then it's a bonus on top of that. But having another Death Touch creature that we can swing in with, and we do get Ascend, then we can easily start drawing again. So we're not just getting drawing from our Costly Plunder, but also getting drawings from our Dead-Eyed Brawler, which is going to basically help us draw into more and more cards that are going to take our opponent's creatures. And once again, they are left hurting themselves. Having all these beautiful creatures and being pirates, it wouldn't be a pirate deck without having a copy, or 4, of March the Drowned. Now March the Drowned is a great card for this. It's a 1-drop and we can return 2 pirate cards from our graveyard to our hand. Hey, let's go get 2 more Direfleet Poisoners. Hey, let's go get some Marauders. Hey, let's go get some Hostage Takers. Hey, let's go hit them. Man, it just feels like we're racing through this deck. I've only got 1 more card from the deck to show you before we get into our man bag. But anyway, let's move on. And we're going to go with 4 copies of Vanquish the Weak. Now the reason I've chosen Vanquish the Weak is because we've got a lot of sorcery cards in our deck that are going to be slowing us down. We have to play a lot of cards during our turn, and this is going to become difficult with some games. So we want to hold on to our Vanquish the Weaks to use them at instant speed to be able to destroy our target creature with power 3 or less. Destroying our opponent's creatures is going to be very key. If I can't have your creatures, neither can you. Alright, we've talked about the deck. Let's get into the land before we get into my man bag. And we're going to go with 4 copies of Dragon Skull Summit and 4 copies of Drowned Catacombs. And these are going to coincide with having 4 copies of an island, 4 mountains, 4 swamps, and 2 evolving wilds, so that we can make sure that we can balance our land drops. So we can use the Dragon Skull Summit to get to our double red, we can use our Drowned Catacombs to get either black or blue, and then of course the evolving wilds to help make sure we get those land drops we're going to be searching for if we are struggling to find certain lands. Now, by my own admission, this sideboard is insane, and you could easily change this deck and make it 10 times more powerful or more difficult to deal with for your opponent. And this is how we do it. First of all, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Captain's Hook. Now the thing is, I love about the Captain's Hook is you can equip it to an opponent's creature that you've stolen. Of course, when we've finished our attack phase, we then unequip it and it has to be sacrificed. It's got to be destroyed because we've unattached the Captain's Hook. It's great. +2 in Menace. They can double block if they want. That is fine. And it's a pirate in addition to its other costs, and so we can use the Direfleet Poisoner on it. What? Is your mind blowing? Wow, mine is. This is some hell synergy right here. You're going to have some haters out there. Man, I'm evil. Anyway, this is just the beginning of the start of the evil we're about to bring. Let's move on to our next card. And that is 3 copies of Angrath,
the Flame Chain.
Now, I do like Angrath. His +1 ability, each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life, is really helpful. It's going to get some of those cards, it could be removals or counters, out of his hand. It could be the flash creatures, it could be anything he's holding, but the less cards he has in his hand, it'll be more likely we can beat them. His -3 ability is perfect. Gain control of target creature until the end of the turn. Untap it, it gains haste until the end of the turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step if it has a converted mana cost of 3 or less. So even if it's not converted mana cost of 3 or less, we could still use Costly Plunder on this, and we could even use the Captain's Hook to equip to it to unequip it, so they have to sacrifice it as well. And finally, his -8 ability is perfect because we've been using the +1 ability for them to dump more cards out of their hands. We've been using our Death Touch creatures to get more of their stuff in the graveyard. And of course, once we get to it, the ulti is -8, and each opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in his or her graveyard. Well, as I discussed earlier, we do have a lot of sorcery speeds cards, but we can replace some of that slow, clunky spells with 4 copies of Fiery Cannonade. Yep, that's right. Fiery Cannonade is 2 and 1 red, instant speed. Fiery Cannonade deals 2 damage to each non-pirate creature. What's that, you say? All of our creatures are pirates? Fiery Cannonade also works very well in a combo with the Warkite Marauder. When the Marauder swings in and we turn our opponent's creatures into 0/1s, we can then sweep that board. Just in case you thought we were done with all the pirates, I've decided to put 2 copies of Ruthless Knave in our sideboard. Now, Ruthless Knave is a 1 black, 2 other orc pirate. It is 3/2, but it does have an ability that is going to help us when we steal our opponent's creatures, which is you pay 3, 2 others, 1 black, and you can sacrifice a creature. And you can do this at instant speed. You just got to have the mana in your pool. And if you do that, you get 2 treasure tokens. And we all know how helpful treasure tokens are, especially if you're trying to get to Ascend. So this could work very well with our Dead-Eyed Brawler. Having treasures is also going to help us get our double reds and any other colors that we may be short on. This is the last card we're going to move to in our deck, and it's a beauty. And it's one of my favorite commons, to be honest, and that's 4 copies of Supernatural Stamina. Now, the thing is that I love about Supernatural Stamina is you can bounce creatures, so you can give it extra an attack, and then it can come back and it bounces. So until the end of turn, target creature gets +2, and when this creature dies, you can return it to the battlefield tapped. Now, this is really good for using the likes of the Direfleet Poisoner. It's really, really good for that. Now, Supernatural Stamina isn't going to be on the sideboard just for 1 creature to bounce. We need to be able to bounce a couple so that the synergy works a lot better. So we're going to use it for our Hostage Takers as well. Now, Hostage Taker is brilliant to use it on. So if our opponent is trying to destroy Hostage Taker to gain control of their creature back, we Supernatural Stamina it, we bounce it, we gain control of that creature again, and then we cast it the following turn. Well, that brings us to a close to another deck. I hope you've enjoyed my pirate deck, my Grixis I'm gonna get my opponent to kill themselves deck. If you do, like it, share, subscribe, comment, do what you want. I'll catch you on the flip side. Ciao.